Agora mesmo.
Vou ficar cá.
Não, eu fico só agora para esta parte inicial, depois
Fala você, e a direção, fala o Jorge. O João falou também.
Puxão.
Então vai, mas para mim não.
Fica aqui muita comunicação social, fotografia. Assim as notas, espero que my accent could be listening.
Já falo em português também.
Tudo bem?
Boa tarde a todos. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Santarém and to ICEM Conference 2022. Allow me to greet my colleagues from the table. Professor João, President of Instituto Politécnico de Santarém, Professor Maria João Horta, from Direção-Geral de Educação, Professor Jorge Camacho, Director of Escola Superior de Educação de Santarém, Dr. João Teixeira Leite, Vice President of Câmara Municipal de Santarém, and Professor Zé Loureiro, our President of ICEM. Welcome. Welcome and welcome finally. And I say finally because we were about to host ICEM conference in 2020 and COVID happened. Then in 2021 we had to change to an online seminar week due to COVID still. And 2022 arrived. Well, COVID is still around, but we had to carry on and make it happen. I'm glad that we did it. So nice to see so many friendly faces here and also online, because this is a hybrid event. Hybrid and rich in content. We have 6 workshops just today. We will have later on our first keynote and 3 more to come in the next 2 days. 1 round table and 6 symposiums and 9 panel sessions, full with interesting topics, good practices and experiences, and to share among the academic community. I won't extend myself longer. I will give the word to Zé Loureiro, our ICEM president, and then I will give to the followers.
Olá, good afternoon, boa tarde, very nice, very good looking faces. I'm so happy to be here with you. It is a big pleasure and a big honor to address you as a president of ICEM. It is very special because I am in my homeland and I am in a town that means a lot to me. In fact, in the year of the revolution, in 74, 75, I was studying in this town, and they call it the town of freedom, because it had a very important role in the revolution. I was 15 years old, and the dream of a people was becoming true. And we went for dictatorship to democracy, from authoritarianism to freedom. It was a very important period for me. I was 15 years old by that time. Today, almost 50 years after, we have lots of big challenge in education. When we look to the world, This morning in a workshop, I was hearing a colleague of us telling that the world is not clean today. And I loved the expression because it is so truth. The world is quite complicated, and we have this role. We have to educate students and young people to a future that we don't know, to a future that it is completely mysterious for us, a future very uncertain, and sometimes it can look promising, but other times it is quite dark. We know that there is wars going on, there is this gender gap bigger and bigger in some countries. There are lots of problems, and we know also that concerning the digital, half of the world cannot connect to the internet, so we have big challenge as also a council, an international council. So I would like to tell that our role, our work, it is to educate children for the digital, with the digital, for media citizenship, for digital citizenship, but we also have to educate them for a very balanced digital, for a better education. And I should say that for ICEM, that I represent here, this is the education with media and digital is our brand, our trend. Thank you very much.
Bem, good afternoon. Welcome to Santarém. Boa tarde a todos, bem-vindos a Santarém. Eu vou falar em português, vou falar na nossa língua e espero que não levem a mal, mas de forma muito rápida eu não poderia deixar de, em nome do Sr. Presidente, de felicitar o Politécnico de Santarém pela dinâmica impressa, não só com esta iniciativa, mas falámos ali em poucos minutos, ali fora, e de facto com o Sr. Presidente, quem cumprimento, e na sua pessoa cumprimento todo o painel que está aqui presente, bem como os convidados que estão também desse lado a participar nesta importante conferência, mas felicitar em nome da Câmara Municipal a dinâmica do Politécnico, e nota-se bastante na vida da nossa cidade aquilo que está a acontecer com o Politécnico de Santarém. É bom também saber que o Sr. Presidente e a sua equipa têm uma ambição de crescer, uma ambição de ter mais alunos, e já está a conseguir neste ano, e temos forte esperança que também nos próximos anos esse número de alunos possa continuar com essa rota de crescimento. Isso é importante para o nosso concelho, é importante para a nossa região, é importante para o nosso país. Termos jovens qualificados, com elevada qualificação, com qualidade, com aquilo que se pratica no nosso Politécnico de Santarém, é bom para o desenvolvimento e crescimento do nosso país. E esta conferência, e vou felicitar também a direção e os coordenadores e a equipa do ICEM, felicitar pela dinâmica que já é também, de há uns anos a esta parte, do conhecimento de todos nós, mas a importância de discutirem ao longo dos anos, e sobretudo neste ano em particular, em que a educação, em que todos nós vivemos momentos difíceis da nossa vida coletiva, e a educação foi aquela categoria, sobretudo os professores do ensino, que tiveram a capacidade e a audácia de enfrentar com bravura as dificuldades que a pandemia nos trouxe. E, portanto, vivemos um momento único para discutirmos aquilo que estão aqui a discutir, o futuro, a forma como a educação consegue abraçar a inovação, e é importante discutirmos entre pessoas que conhecem tão bem a educação, que têm tantos contributos para dar na temática da educação e, sobretudo, temos a audácia de conseguir também envolver investigadores, envolver professores, envolver todas as classes que estão aqui a discutir este que é um trabalho fundamental da nossa sociedade. Se queremos uma cidade, uma região e um país forte, preparado para enfrentar os desafios do futuro, investir na educação é o caminho certo. E a palavra certa, Sr. Presidente do Politécnico concordará comigo, é investir. Nós hoje estamos aqui a investir em conhecimento, estamos a investir em troca de experiências, mas também existe investimento financeiro em torno desta e de outras iniciativas e em torno daquilo que é os objetivos da educação a nível local e nacional, e de facto é fundamental. É através da escola, do ensino superior, neste caso em concreto, que conseguimos construir mundo, que conseguimos mudar o mundo, e é com a troca de experiências que está aqui a ser feita que vamos trazer também contributos para que juntos, todos juntos, possamos melhorar o mundo que precisa de tanta melhoria, precisa de tanta mudança. Por isso, parabéns ao ICEM, parabéns ao Politécnico de Santarém, a todos quantos estão envolvidos na dinâmica desta importante iniciativa, e Santarém estará sempre de braços abertos para receber todos quantos visitem o nosso concelho. Aproveitem esta conferência, desfrutem desta conferência, mas fica o convite para que todos possam também conhecer esta que é a capital do Ribatejo, que tem também, do ponto de vista cultural, do ponto de vista do património, a dar a conhecer a todos quantos visitam pela primeira vez o nosso concelho. Portanto, a todos, bem-vindos, welcome to Santarém, e desfrutem e boa conferência. Parabéns a todos.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Santarém. It's my pleasure as a director of this school to welcome you, and on behalf of all our teachers and students and staff, wish you a very pleasant annual conference, and I hope that we'll get many good results from this. As you know, as a higher school of education, we have three main branches, offers. Teacher training, it's one of our courses, social education, and multimedia production in education and digital resources in education. So I think that this annual conference fits really very well with our offer, and I'm sure that it will be a plus for our students and staff and all the academic community to learn from you. And during all these 3 days, we'll have so many workshops, symposiums, lectures, and I'm sure that it will be a great moment. And I hope that when you return back to your countries, you have very good results, academic results. It's really very important, but also very good memories from our institution, from our town, from our region, and we hope that you'll return back. Because from these kind of conferences, the academic part is really very important because it develops new projects, new networks, new personal contacts, and it's really very important for the future. But also it's also very important, the personal contacts, because it's a good motivation to go further and to work together. And I would like to thank to the president of the ICM Council to choose our institution. It's a big honor for us to host this international event with so many important people, and so from at least 4 different continents. I think at least from 4 different continents. Yeah, so it's really very relevant. And I look for the program and I saw that the theme of the program, it's move on towards a new normal in education. And it's really very relevant after all these 2 years of pandemic. What's the new normal? The world, it will be different for sure, because during these years we learned to work differently, with a big support from the technological resources. And that skills that we developed during these 2 years, for sure, it will help us on the near future to improve our activities in our academies. So I'm looking very much forward to see the results of this conference. I'm not an expert in that field. I'm a geographer, so it's a completely different field. But I'm curious of your speeches, of your results, what's coming on. And I would like also to publicly to recognize and to thank our organization committee coordinated by my colleague Ana Loureiro. And I saw during this month, and especially during these last weeks, all the commitments, all the professionalism that they put on it. And I believe that it's the result of their work that it's happening now. And as far as I know, everything is perfectly organized. And thank you very much to lead that wonderful team together with Dina, Rui, and the other colleagues. It's a pleasure to have you, and good work. And I hope to see you again very soon in this institution. Good work.
Muito boa tarde a todos e a todas. Good afternoon, everyone. Senhor Vice-Presidente da Câmara, Senhor Presidente Politécnico, Senhor Presidente da IES de Santarém, Senhora Presidente da Conferência, Professora Ana Loureiro, organizadora. It's a pleasure for me to be here representing the Ministry of Education. The theme of the conference is very well decided for the committee. Speaking about the new normal means for us in Ministry of Education, speaking about better education for all. So we know that with the pandemic, the results and the achievements of our students, and especially the ones with the lower backgrounds, with fragile backgrounds, weren't as good as we like. But in general, Portugal is doing great achievements in terms of results in education, even when compared with other countries, not just in Europe, but well, all around the world. So just for give you an example, in terms of early dropout, in terms of Europe, the average of countries are with a 10% of early dropout. And in Portugal, we have for now, in the end of 2021, 5.9. Well, we feel comfortable knowing that we are lower than the average of countries in all Europe. But for us, even if it is one student that is not finishing the compulsory schooling that in Portugal is 12 years that we have, we still stay sad, and we still say that we have to do more to have all students finishing the 12 years of compulsory education. So going deeper in terms of the theme of this conference and speaking about digital citizenship, preparing our students for the use of digital devices, which in Portugal we have a huge plan for giving computers for all students and teachers, and at the same time producing open resources, digital resources, and at the same time also preparing our teachers to do better they can in our schools. So this is very connected with the work that we are doing, but I will have time after the open session to speak deeper in this about these ideas that I would like to share with you. But just to finish saying that it's a pleasure for us as Minister of Education to be in this opening session, because in terms of the last years of political decisions, all the work that we are putting in the field, we'll do it very closely with researchers, with university, with schools of education. because we know that to do a good work, we have to look to the results of the research in education. Even when we do pilots, we do it with the systems of monitoring the results, and then we decided if we scale up the pilots or not. So it's a pleasure for me to be here with all these researchers, with all these people interested in doing better in education. So it's a pleasure for me to be here, and congratulations for the organization. And I hope that you enjoy the conference and enjoy Santarém, this beautiful city that you have in Portugal. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Just short remarks. So, first of all, good afternoon to you all. I would like to also to give my compliments to all my colleagues in this opening session. And I would like to say that as president of the Polytechnic Institute of Santarém, I'm greatly honored and pleased to welcome you all, especially the eminent speakers that we have among us, and also all the participants that came all around the world, right? As we all know, the pandemic reality has made it clear that we need to implement new educational tools, environments, and also use innovative technology-based learning strategies. So the ICM Congress is plays a very important role in this regard by allowing to share the best practices among students, educators, teachers, trainers, researchers, and all other professional interests in this team. The local organization committee and also our scientific committee have done a fantastic work, I must say, in preparing this Congress. So I also would like to join Jorge Camacho and thank them for their energy, competence, professionalism during this organization process. And for sure, the success that I anticipate for this Congress will certainly be the result of it. Thank you, Anna, Dina, and all the staff involved. And also for the ICM for the opportunity that allow us to organize and to host this event in the Santarém. Thank you. So the theme of the Congress is moving towards a new normal in education, and I hope that these 4 days of Congress, 4 days? 3 days. For social, okay. It's a very important part, of course, it's part of the Congress. So I hope that these days will allow, of course, all the academics, researchers, and professionals to share their ideas and views and positive approach to this theme. But also my last advice is also to, and I hope that the Congress provides you not only a forum to exchange these scientific ideas, but also to promote new contacts for closer cooperation and also to cooperation so that we can create a better future. But of course, and I wish you all a very pleasant stay and that you enjoy these days in Santarém and in also Portugal, and also have a good time during this Congress. Thank you very much and welcome again to Santarém, to Polytechnic Institute, and to Portugal. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you to everyone for the welcoming words. I wish everyone also a wonderful event. And I invite you all now to listen to our first keynote speaker, Professor João Horta, and that will be moderated by Dr. Walter Olensky. So I will call him also to the stage. and we will leave, and the floor is yours. Thank you. In case you need, there's some info about Maria João.
Okay.
And
I
the
already.
diplomas, yeah.
Will we already start now, or it's like the scheduling 1 hour? Will we start now with the keynote?
Yeah, we are in ahead. It's okay. Everyone is here. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Let's go. For the beginning, maybe we sit, then when I begin the presentation, we will say.
Keep the COVID distance.
That we'll still have some time, so people are enjoying the time to be together.
May I introduce you as a professor?
As a professor, it's okay. That's what I am.
Okay.
I'm in inspection for now, but I'm a teacher.
But you're the ministry.
Yes. I'm deputy director for education. So, but well, my profession, I'm a teacher. So,
Okay.
a science teacher and ICT teacher.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Walter Olensky. I worked for the Ministry of Education in Austria, and they're in the media department, and I'm still kind of consultant for the ministry. It's a big pleasure and honor for me to introduce our first keynote of the conference. That will be given by Signor Professora Maria João Horta. She studied geology in Coimbra, I learned, and was studied further in Lisbon and did pedagogic science, and is now working for she's the Deputy Director General of Education in the Ministry of Education in Lisbon. And I'm very curious about her words for digital education as a pathway for inclusion. May I give you the floor?
I think that I have to use it because of the Zoom session. So thank you very much, Professor, for the presentation. As teacher, I prefer to speak in this position. So it's again an honor for me to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation that the organization did to Ministry of Education, not myself, but let me tell you that what I'm going to do is to, well, in a certain way, to see as to reflect with you in how using and having more digital tools in our schools can open the floor for more students to be engaged in our schools. So that's why I decided to choose this name. So to make just give you some information about what we are doing in Portugal in terms of education, and then I will move on to digital education and to inclusion. But first of all, let me tell you that since more or less 2016, we began a huge change in our educational system. And this change was because we, since 2009, 12 years of compulsory education, but we didn't have a framework for the proposing of having those 12 years of compulsory education, compulsory schooling. So we did this framework that we call Students Profile by the End of Compulsory Schooling, which represent the vision for education in Portugal at this moment. We decided that in the core of this framework, we have the values, and surrounding these values, we have the areas of competencies, which means to bring to our educational system what in general we call the soft skills, those skills that are so important in today's days, so important not just for the youngest to get a good job, but I think that I would like to underline those competencies for our students became citizens in terms of values and being prepared for a democratic world. So, and surrounding all this as a glue for this framework, we have the principles. So I'm not going to speak about all the information that is inside of this framework. We have it in English, so you can consult it. But it's a small book with those important things that for us matter in terms of preparing the youngest for the life that we have in the present and for the future, even don't knowing about the future, but we can imagine that the values will be very important in the near future. So just underline that the first value that we put in our students' profile is freedom. So we really would like to prepare our youngest in the schools for them to live in a freedom world where they can have position, where they are critical, where they can take decisions, but decisions based in knowledge. So this is in general the framework for education that we have now in Portugal. But going a bit deeper in my decision of bringing and putting together digital education and inclusion, this is because inclusion is not just a part of the work that we are doing in schools. Inclusion for us is the pillar, the most important pillar that we have now in terms of education in Portugal. And for us, inclusion means that we have all our students inside the schools, inside the buildings. As I told you in the opening session, we still have some students that don't finish this compulsory education, but in general, all the students, all the child and the youngest are in our schools, but it's not enough that they are in schools. What for us is important, that they all have the same opportunities and that they all can go as further as they can. So for that, we have to put resources in schools. We have to prepare our teachers, because many of the things that we as teachers learn when we do our initial training, it is not enough compared with the work that we have to do in our schools today. So I really would like to tell you that inclusion is in the center of decisions that we are taking at the level of Ministry of Education, but then we are working all these ideas very closely with the schools. And we decided that, as I told you before, that all these political decisions that are being taken since 2016, we have tools for monitoring it and to trying to look for the results, for the impact that these decisions and all these resources that we are putting in the system, the results that schools are achieving. And just to give you an idea, generally we work very closely with universities, with researchers, but sometimes we ask for international institutions. And that's what happened with the law for inclusion that we have in Portugal. So we had OECD here in Portugal during 2020 and 2021, visiting schools, doing interviews with teachers, with head teachers, with families, with students, visiting different schools in different contexts. And in the end, they produced this first report about the implementation of inclusive education in Portugal, and let me tell you that the results are quite good. They really underline all the achievements that we are doing in Portugal in terms of education, but they also gave us in this report some recommendations, because we still have some variations between regions. And we still have variations between the backgrounds of the families. So there's a positive correlation between families with lower incomes, students with lower achievements. So this is quite a problem for us, not just a problem for the Ministry of Education, but a problem for schools, a problem for teachers, a problem for all the society. But moving to this theme that I would like to reflect with you, which is having the digital education as a pathway for inclusion. Let me tell you that for us, this means to transform what we have in terms of education. And for you, maybe you are thinking, well, so radical, why do we have to transform education? If we have a good system, usually we say, if it's okay, don't change it. But we think that schools in general, and I'm not just speaking about Portugal, in general, schools are very conservative. Schools tend to stay in the area of comfort, and the teachers and the head teachers usually take the same decisions year after year. So when we think in do some investment and invest in schools and invest in equipment, so moving for digital education and speaking about digital education in one of the dimensions that we can put on the table, which is the equipment. For us, it's a quite unexpected that put in. It's not just in Portugal. I think that it's all around the world. If we put computers and if we put digital tools inside the schools, teachers tend to do the same, use the same pedagogical practice, use the same organization of school, using the same organization of the classroom, even having computers in the hands of students, even having internet and other kind of digital resources in the hands of teachers and students. So when I'm speaking about transforming education, I think that it's more than time for us to look at school as an organization and say that, well, society is changing a lot, but schools tend to be conservative mainly in the way that they organize themselves. For instance, we opened the possibility after pandemic, we are now running a huge plan for recovering learning, for students recovering learning, and we put the possibility of schools to change the organization of the classes, not having 25 students in one class and then another 25 in another classroom, but they have now flexibility, they have now autonomy to manage the curriculum and to manage the organization that they have inside their own buildings, but they tend to do the same. So just a lower number of schools apply for this possibility of changing the way they are organized. So we think that to do this transformation in the education, we have to think about the new roles for teacher, and this is not a new idea that I'm bringing to you. Having this new role for teachers means also have a new role for students, which is giving more autonomy to our students and having teachers not as the ones that have all the knowledge and are there just for teach. And if the students don't learn, the problems is in the side of the student and not inside of the school or inside the organization. So new role for teachers means new role for students, because for sure that we have to have students with higher digital literacy, being more critical and more competent in terms of producing content and having other roles in our society. So this means that we have to achieve innovative approaches to education, and I'm speaking about innovation not as having the innovation as the end, as the aim, but using innovation to change the way we have our schools and our classrooms organized. So that means that maybe we have to look for new learning environments. So students, as we saw during the pandemic, they are still learning and they were not in schools. Because in March 2020, in Portugal, as in many other countries, the schools were closed, the students were at home, but we tried to keep them involved in the learning process. So if we look around, schools are not the only places where students can learn. So when we speak about new learning environments, we are speaking about other places where students can learn, like museums, but also thinking in forests, thinking in libraries, public libraries or other spaces. But even inside the classroom, we are seeing more and more schools that, for instance, have classrooms outside the building. So they prepare a garden, for instance, and students can make activities on their own, and they are learning because they are guided by their own teachers. So going in terms of going deeper in this need for transforming education, we have to remember all the times that we are receiving more and more different students, many coming from other countries. Many of them, they don't even know how to speak in Portuguese, and schools have to receive them. And it's good that schools receive students coming from other realities. Why? Because we think that diversity could be something very with a huge value inside the community. If some times ago schools prefer to have all the same type of students, all with the same behavior, coming from the same cultural backgrounds, for us now, and if you have curiosity in reading our law for inclusion, in our law for inclusion, we say, we have this sentence that diversity should be looked at something that is going to produce more powerful environments, because different cultural backgrounds can open the mind of our students and prepare them for this diverse world where they have to live. So going now for our digital transition action plan, and saying again that digital transition action plan was a decision that were made by our Council of Ministers, was a Council of Ministers resolution in April of 2020. So we closed our schools in March 2020, and we saw that schools were not prepared in terms of equipments, in terms of infrastructures, and they were quite different between each other, because, for instance, in some municipalities, they did investments. So some schools were very well equipped, but other were not. So if we if we keep saying that all the students should have the best opportunities for learn, so it's very unfair. If a student is in a school well equipped, they can move forward. But if they are in a school where no one wants to know about digital equipment, so they don't have the same, they didn't have the same opportunities. So that's why in April of 2020 they decided, the council, there's a resolution of the Council of Ministers that decided many things, but I'm not going to read, but it's just for you to have an idea about all the investments. So we are using the recovering and resilience plan and use a huge amount of money, so 500 million euros in investing in education. And this is to guarantee that in all buildings, in all school buildings, there are quality in the internet, but at the same time, there's laptops for students, laptops for teachers, and digital education laboratories inside the schools. That means that it's not just laptops in the hands of students and in the hands of the teachers. It's also more sophisticated equipment, like equipment for robotics, equipment for STEAM, and the other gadgets that we are putting in schools, and at the same time preparing our teachers to use as much as they can all this equipment. So in terms of areas of investment, let me underline these 3 dimensions, putting in the middle, in the core, the school digital empowerment. So to have this school digital empowerment, we have to invest in terms of having digital educational resources. We have to invest in terms of equipment and connectivity, and we have to invest in terms of teachers' professional development. So in general, in these key areas of investments, we have to ensure this ecosystem, which put together these 3 very important areas, because it's not enough to put equipment in schools, it's not enough to do the teacher training development, it's not enough to have just digital resources. We have to do this at the same time, like pieces of a puzzle that we should put together, because as I told you in the beginning, schools are very conservative, so we have to put lots of pressures for them to move forward. So this is the strategy. It's a very complex scheme, but it's the strategy. Strategy, what do I mean by strategy? Is we have the political decision, and then we have technical services who work together with schools and try to support them in this transformation. So what did we do at the DG level, at the level of General Directorate for Education? So we decided that we have a top-down approach, and the top-down approach was the political decision. Then we designed all this strategy because the aim was a bottom-up approach. What do I mean by this? I'm saying that they were taken decisions at a political level, but then we have to look at the schools as organizations that can and should at the same times take their own decisions, because schools are different from each other. So the national decisions can be interpreted and be put it in the field in the different ways. But our aim is to support schools and to accept decisions that were made by the schools. So what do we did? We prepare all the work to do this teachers' digital empowerment, preparing trainers and using a check-in tool to know the profile of teachers in terms of their own digital proficiency. What does this mean? That means that some teachers have an higher level of digital competencies and others don't. So they should do different courses. They should do different activities in terms of the training that they were going to move in. So we have this check-in tool, and I will go deeper in a moment, and we have different training courses. At the same time, we put, because in our country we have more or less 90 centers for teacher training that are connected with the clusters of schools. So we put a human resource in each of these training centers. People who would higher competencies in terms of using digital in schools, and they work with digital development teams inside the schools. So all the schools were involved in terms of leaderships to prepare themselves to receive all these investment inside their own organizations. And at the same time, we are doing acquisitions in terms of digital resources. So this strategy has only one but very important objective, which is increasingly better learning outcomes of our students. All the work that we are doing, it's just because, and it's very important, because we want to prepare as better as we can our students. So this is the general strategy that we put in the field. And I'm just going some examples about what I tell you in terms of preparing teachers. So we in Portugal have more or less 100,000 teachers. When we invited our teachers 2 years ago to do this check-in, and doing this check-in, it's using a tool that the European Commission prepared and that all countries in Europe can use. We invited our teachers to do their own check-in for them to see in which level of digital proficiency they are. And then they were invited for training. So we have, as I told you, more or less 100,000 teachers, 99 99,000 did this check-in, use this check-in. So more or less 99% of our teachers did. So almost all teachers decided to do this, use this check-in. We began this in 2020, and for now we already have 67,000 teachers that already make a course in digital skills for them to develop their own digital skills. So this is because I think our strategy were with all these pieces of a huge puzzle that we put together, and with a huge campaign. Of course, that we can say that because of pandemic, all teachers felt that they should learn more about using digital tools. But even so, I think that this is a huge achievement that we are doing. So that means that in terms of digital empowerment plan, we try to put ICT embedded in curriculum. So we are moving more and more to this vision of having ICT, of having digital tools embedded in curriculum. So students are learning sciences and are learning history and geography and so on, but they are using digital tools. For that, they are using these tools because they can provide better and powerful environments for them to learn. So this empowerment of teachers take place at two levels, so they can do these courses to put their skills in a higher plan, but at the same time, they are doing, in terms of the strategic plan that schools build, they are doing other activities. So this is we used, as I told you, the framework of European Commission, and we have these training courses where they can explore digital tools, but where they can have and do some reflection and collaborate with each other, and to bring innovation to the system. So working together with those teachers training centers, with these digital ambassadors, we are keeping and doing and putting pressure in the system in terms of having all people thinking in the best way for them to use these digital tools inside the schools. So this is important in terms of maintain the interest in knowing more and going deeper and creating more powerful environments for our students to learn. So at the same time, as I told you, we have this decision of having this top-down approach in terms of a national plan, but as I told you, we ask schools for them to design their own strategic plan in terms of school. So we have this national plan, but then we ask schools for them to design their own plan. But for them to design their own plan, they have to know where they should do better. So we ask them to look to their organizational issues, for them to look to their pedagogical issues, and also to look to the technical and digital issues that they have inside their own school. So for them to do some reflection. And they did this reflection, use another very important tool that you may know, which calls Selfie for schools. This is a framework that supports schools in doing those reflections. So with those tools, they have several possibilities of using different questionnaires and to ask things to teachers, to students, and also to families to know where, in terms of these different dimensions, where they should do better that they are doing till now. So in terms of digital development of schools, action plan, they design it, and for us is this bottom-up approach. So they are not just receiving orders from the Ministry of Education, they are reflecting and they are seeing where they are more fragile and that's why they should design actions to have their own or at the organizational level, pedagogical level, and in terms of infrastructure level, where they should do better. And this action plan for schools means that they have to do a good diagnostic, so they use the check-in tool and selfie tool. They have to have a good definition of objectives and priorities. They have to plan, to schedule, to implement the actions, and then they have to have a good plan for communication and have this monitoring system for the actions and to see and to evaluate the results of their own specific action plans. So, and I'm almost finishing because I don't want to put you tired in the beginning of this huge conference. So I'm just going to finalize my presentation, doing that in terms of our DG. We work very close with these digital ambassadors. We are working with them in terms of a community, online community. We are by them knowing what is going on in schools, and when it's needed, we go and visit its schools. We are doing workshops with the teachers when it's needed. We are working very close with our teachers centers, and it's not just a plan and a strategy, is at the same time having good tools for monitoring and to see the results. So we are working also with researchers, with the universities, for them to look to all the work that we are putting in the field and to see the results. Because as I told you, for us, the most and the important result that we can achieve is having all students during 12 years in schools, but being sure that they are learning the best they can. So just for finishing, showing and giving you an example about the pilot that we are running, for showing you that many of these actions that we put in the field, we begin with a pilot. Even this plan for digitalization that were improved in the 2020, we were, before of that, we were piloting it in some schools to see if this strategy is working well. So in terms of doing this transition from textbooks in paper to digital textbooks, we are working with several schools all around our country with different publishers. In Portugal, we have different publishers producing resources and textbooks for schools. So we are working with 17 publishers with more than 11,000 students and with lots of classes. And we are having a specific plan for those teachers who are doing this transition from textbooks in papers to digital textbooks. And when I say digital textbooks, I'm not speaking about PDFs of the book in paper. I'm speaking about many other resources that those publishers are providing to the schools that are inside the pilot. So we are monitoring and we are evaluating this methodology in terms of the technology that students and teachers need. We are working with those teachers, trying that innovate is the best word that comes in my mind. But when I'm speaking about innovating in pedagogy, maybe I'm not saying new things. I'm speaking about pedagogies that we already know from a long time ago. But I think that with those digital tools, teachers tend to improve a bit better the way they organize the classroom. So all these resources and trying to change this context. So why? Because really we think that if we prepare well our teachers, we will achieve better results in our students. And again, finishing, now it will be my last words. Don't forget the beginning. This is all about having good results for all students independently from their own context, from their own backgrounds. What we want is that all the students, different students coming from different cultural backgrounds, they will achieve good results in terms not just the knowledge, but of course higher levels of knowledge, higher levels of competencies, but don't forget important values that they should develop in school. And the school system is responsible for that, not just to give them information, not just for giving them computers or whatever. I think that we think that the most important is believing that in school they should and they have to develop the values that we put in the core of our students' profile in the end of compulsory education. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and it's very really encouraging, and it makes me very optimistic. And my question is there a time frame for the national plan?
Yes, thank you for your question. So our timetable is still 2025. So we began in 2020 with this Ministerial Council resolution. The first part, the decision that they took, it was to buy the computers because of the pandemic, of course. So they bought almost 1 million computers, which is a huge problem for schools, as you can imagine. But that's why we have in these school action plans the dimension of infrastructure. So and the schools are working more and more with municipalities to get support for this infrastructure. So in terms of plan, the old campaign about buying computers, it was during 2020 and 2021. So in December of 2021, we had almost 1 million laptops in schools. So just to underline that the laptops are not for students, the laptops are for schools, and then schools do a contract with the families. Families receive the computer during, depends on the age, but we have different level of computers. So if they are in primary school, they receive a certain type of laptop. If they are in the lower secondary, a different type, and if they are in the upper secondary, they receive the same computers as teachers receive. So we distribute all the computers during 2020 and 2021. Then the teacher training began in 2020 and will end in the end of 2023. And the digital resources, we are now doing contracts with companies, and we'll have all the subjects with open digital resources in the end of 2025. So it's a plan between 2020 and 2025.
I see, thank you. You said Portugal invests about €500 million for transforming this plan. What is the role of the private sector financially wise? Is there additional money from the private sector comes there in? Or
no. We are just using public funds. Just okay. Public funds and the plan for recovering and resilient plan. Okay. That all countries in Europe received. So the decision was to take a part of this and put it in education. So okay. Mainly it's money coming from Europe, but also national budget that they are using for that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the auditorium?
Thank you, Deputy Director. That was inspiring, and I really enjoyed listening to your approach to education here in Portugal, particularly innovation. Now, Pasi Sahlberg, who you might be aware of, has written a lot on PISA and the OECD and how the PISA testing system limits our teachers in classrooms and their innovation. So I was particularly joyful to hear you talk about innovation in classrooms. And I wanted to know how you've approached this. How do you manage that tension between the pressures of PISA scores, which are focused on numeracy and literacy, and then the innovation and the agency that you wish to confer upon your teachers? How do you circle that square?
Yes, it's a very difficult question that you are putting me, but well, in Portugal, as in many other countries, there's this tension between the academic results and all the other areas of competencies and values that we really would like to develop in our students. So in terms of PISA, well, Portugal since the last years is participating in PISA, and the results are quite good. So we have some decrease in some school years, but in general the tendency is to achieve better results. I think that in Portugal, the PISA is more being seen at the political level. I'm not sure if teachers in schools are very well aware of what means PISA for a country. I know that in other countries, for instance, I remember that the Minister of Education in a Nordic country lose the position because of the PISA results, but I don't think that in Portugal people in general are so well curious or even worry with the results of PISA. But at the national level, at the national exams, we still have that position mainly in upper secondary, and this is the tension because of the I don't know if it's just because, but in a certain part is because our universities are using the results of students when they end the 12 years of compulsory schooling, so they have to do some exams to go to the universities. And teachers tend to use, I think, this as maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe as excuse to keep the same method of teaching, because they say, well, I can't do project-based learning, I can't go outside with my students because they have to learn because they are going to have exams. But in Portugal, we are having less and less exams. Because of pandemia, we have the political decision that students can end the 12 years of secondary education with the internal results of schools. So this means that we, for sure, have lots of confidence in the work that teachers do in our schools. And then for the students that want to go and move for the university should say, each university, they should say which exams they ask for students. So if students decide, for instance, they do a vocational course in secondary, they don't have to do exams to finish the secondary level of education. So I think that the idea at the political level is having more and more confidence in the work that schools are doing. And so, well, I'm in a school of education, but I think that universities should decide how they want to choose the students that they can have inside their own schools. But for us, yes, mainly upper secondary teachers tend to say, if they are math teacher, if they are Portuguese language teacher, they tend to say that they have to prepare the students for the exams. But I think that the exams by themselves are changing. So, and we are seeing in the results that the problem in the exams are not the lower difficult questions. So students tend to have problems when they have to apply knowledge, when they have to apply the knowledge in different situations. So I think that the exams are changing, and well, just study thinking in exams are seen in general as something that it's not, well, the thing that we should see in our schools.
I'll just speak normally without the microphone.
No, it's because we are in video Zoom, so.
Okay. Hello? Okay, it's working now. Thank you. That kind of almost answered my question, but what I was really getting at is how PISA forces teachers and schools to focus in upon literacy, numeracy, and a few science skills. The result in the classroom is that teachers tend not to be so innovative. Innovation has been quashed in many areas. And so that's why I thought it was wonderful that you were talking about innovation in the classroom and promoting it. From your answer, I take it that the whole system is moving away from an exam and test-based structure to more of a formative evaluation structure.
Yes, completely.
But the question is, how does that affect PISA? Because that doesn't bear any relevance on the PISA
as I told you, I'm not expert in PISA results or in PISA in exams, but let me tell you that we are not doing the things because of PISA or because of the results in the exams. So the main issue for us is giving autonomy to schools and giving autonomy in terms of curriculum management, for instance. We are a small country, but we are very diverse in our territory. So I don't think that the students that are in the north should learn exactly the same things that students that are in the south. So schools should improve in the capacity of doing some curriculum management, taking decision, and if it's possible, and we are putting some pressure for that, students should be involved in the decision about the things they want to learn, because we would like to improve the curiosity of our students. So if we don't involve them in taking decision about the things that they want to learn, so they are just in a passive position. So of course that if it is the minister that is here, maybe the answer it was not the same, because in the end our ministers are always a bit worried with the results, with the academic results. But I can tell you, and because we know very well our minister, he is in the government since 7 years, not as a minister but as a Secretary of State. So his position is much closer to giving agency to our students, to giving agency to our teachers in schools, giving them autonomy and of course also responsibility. I don't seem so worried as that with the results of the exams in the end of upper secondary. So we are very worried in terms of having all our students learning as much as possible. And if the school is doing a good job, all the students will learn. And this is the most important at the moment for us, is that all the students, because we are having more, society tend to put this gap between the social position of the families. So what we are really trying to achieve is good results for all students. And well, if they have good results in the exams, it's because they have learning the things that they should learn.
Thank you. I am very happy with that answer.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. First of all, thank you for this information. It's very important to me, especially since I'm working in Costa Rica and with professional development or teachers training. One thing that probably couldn't hear or couldn't understand very well, if it is reflected in the curriculum, what you are looking for, because in Costa Rica, we are using the curriculum. So the Ministry of Education is trying to implement all the ICTs, but reflecting that in the curriculum. So in terms of that, what you are doing?
Well, till 2017, we had a national curriculum, and it was the same for all students in all cities, in all small towns, big cities, it was the same. So big curriculum, overloaded curriculum, and all the teachers complain that they don't have time to teach everything that it's inside the curriculum. So when we ended this framework of the students' profile, we began a huge campaign with the teachers' associations, looking at curriculum, knowing, and all of them were with the Minister of Education saying that, well, it's overloaded. We should, in terms of having a more actual curriculum, we decided to have what we call essential learning. So essential learning, it's not the minimum, it's the more important things that all the students should learn. And we did that with teachers. Of course, that it was not easy, because when you put all the representatives of teachers in a big auditorium, as we did, they all say, yes, our curriculum is overloaded. But if you speak with a history group of teachers, they say, well, the others are overloaded. We need to put more history in the students' curriculum. So it was not an easy task, but I think that in general, we could have some, well, positive answers in general. And I think that for now, these essential learning are good documents that teachers and schools can use to be sure that all the students learn the most important things, and then they have autonomy to manage this curriculum. If you speak with me about ICT and curriculum, well, this is also a very difficult decision, because we have the ones that think that ICT and digital education in general should be taught as a subject, and the others that have a different position, which is that students should use digital tools and develop their own digital competencies when they are learning history and geography and arts and so on. So we have this tension and for sure that it's not just in Portugal, it's all over the world. So what we have for now is that we have as a subject ICT in the curriculum, we have as a subject till the 9th grade. If you ask me, do you agree with that? Well, it's a difficult answer, because I really would like to say, if all the teachers were well prepared to use digital tools in the work that they do with the students, and because now we have all the students with computers, with all the students with internet, all the teachers with computers and internet. So I think that for a math teacher or for a geography teacher will be much better to use I'm not saying that they should use it during all classroom, but if it makes sense, they should use it, and at the same time they should develop the digital competencies of their own students. And when I say digital competencies, I'm not just saying using Word or Excel or whatever. I'm not just speaking about tools. I'm speaking in other competencies, like being critical, like knowing where the best quality of information, knowing and saying, well, what it's true and what it's not true, and being critical when they use the social media and so on. So if we have really very well prepared teachers, I think that having an ICT subject, I don't think it's as important as that in the lower levels. Then even don't having as a subject in our curriculum, I should say that in a higher level or upper secondary level, in my opinion, and I'm giving you just my opinion, it's not the position of Ministry of Education, it's my opinion. I think that if we for sure we need more students going to engineer careers, so we should open the possibility for those who would like to have those careers of having specific and more technical and more sophisticated subjects in that area. Because if we have so many options, like in upper secondary, our students have can decide for going in a vet or going what we call, I don't know in English how to say, it's not regular because the others are not irregular, but well, general, yes, general education, then they move to universities, or they can do vet education and then get a job. If they would like to move on in terms of careers in areas of engineering, they should have the option of having something more specific, because in upper secondary for now students can, even having decision to go for language courses or so on, they can also ask to have as an option maths, for instance. So it's very open, the possibilities in terms of upper secondary. So I think that we should have subjects in terms of ICT more sophisticated, and we don't have. Of course, that we have another problem, which is lack of teachers for ICT. But well, that's another problem.
Well, thank you so much. The same is happening in Costa Rica, and also the time for teachers to get the trainings. But thank you.
Good afternoon. Very exciting, good talk. Enjoyed it. One thing that I don't want to, I'm speaking tomorrow, so I'm not going to give out my part of it. But one thing that you said struck my mind is the new normal. Yeah, after Second World War, there was a new normal. Now, after COVID, we have new normal. Now, because of the new normal, there are changes. And these changes, I know European Union has been working on it. We in the United States working on it. But do we really realize, do we really know what is new normal is? So let me tell you, not for the blatant self-promotion, I have a television show in the US. It's called Khan's Digital World. It is after my name, it's on Fox. So however, in 2018, we started the show. And the publisher and producer was saying, why this show? The show is because I believe that there are two worlds we're living in. One is physical world. That's a physical, you are here, I'm here. And there is a digital world in around us. So what we do in the physical world affects us in the digital world. What we do in the digital world affects us in the physical world. So it means if we are not understanding the parallel, if we keep our valuables in the safe, in the physical world, our gold and our diamond, but in the digital world, our email account, everything could be hacked. So my question to you is that do we really know what are the changes that happen in new normal that have implication in education? Thank you.
Well, I don't know the answer, but I can try to build it now. When we speak about the new normal, in my perspective, we are speaking in a new normal, but not the same normal that we had before. The things keep changing, so I'm just saying the things that everyone is thinking now. This new normal for me is having our students, our youngest, more prepared for this imprevisible world at the real level and at the digital level, because many things, the war that we have in Europe, it's not happening just in the real world, it's happening also in a digital world. So I think that schools should be aware of this and should be very well equipped in terms of being in a position of working with students, because I don't like the word preparing students. It's like if they are passive and someone is preparing it, don't asking him if he wants to be prepared for this. So I think that having this dialogue and putting the going upper in terms of level of excellence, and when I say excellence means that we discuss the things that really are important to discuss. Of course, it's very important that in school students learn geography and maths and arts and everything, but it's important that they discuss the issues that are going around in the real world and going around in digital world. So we should, and going again to curriculum, I think that we should put inside the curriculum this need of discussion, this need of reflection. We decided since 2017 to have citizenship as a subject in our curriculum in Portugal. And it brings a lot of discussion between not just inside the schools, but inside the families, because some families say, well, things connected with some issues that they are discussing in school, I don't want that they discuss the thing in school. They will discuss inside my family, not with teachers or with people that we don't know. So this is a huge discussion in our society till now. Since 2017, we still have families that don't allow their own kids to go to this subject. Well, not so many as that, but we have some families that don't allow that. So for me, living in a democratic country, I think that school and the public school, and I'm speaking because in Portugal mainly we have public school, we should discuss these things and put these things inside the curriculum to be sure that they are discussed by all, because we still have in Portugal, as for sure in other countries, difference between schools. So imagine how unfair it is for a student that is in a school where people don't care about the issues of citizenship or about discussing the things that are not going as well as that in our world. So how can I speak about preparing a student for the future, saying that preparing it for the future is just teaching high math quality? Of course, it will be very important to know about math, because it's not because of mathematics, but it's because of understanding all the things that are behind the internet and how they use the data and so on. So I can be an artist, but at the same time, I should know about maths. Otherwise, I will be completely loose in this digital world. So I think that school, and I'm not sure if I'm answering the question that you put in me, but for me, school is the place where we should discuss all these difficult issues about how it is to be prepared for this complex world, how to be prepared for this uncertain world, for this digital world, but not in this perspective of preparing the students, but discussing with them and have this agency in students, having their understanding the choices and teaching, because I think that we should and we have to teach them to be critical, and teach a student to be critical is to give them opportunities to be in situations where he or she have to decide it. And if I don't create situation and context for my students to take decision in community, in country, then, well, they will be observed by, well, all the things that we know that are happening in our world.
Thank you so much. So what you're talking about is a book that I'm writing at the moment. So it's wonderful to hear you speaking about this. So my question really relates to the title here, moving on to the new normal in education. I'm at the Institute of Education at the University of Manchester. My field is educational leadership and also policy. And we're a world center for that in research. And our outputs over the last 2 years have shown us that agency was handed to teachers in COVID. Leaders found themselves unusually redundant in this time, looking for a purpose. Teachers had purpose more than ever before, and suddenly parents understood the value of teachers. Yes. Have you been able to use this incentive and this revolution, if you like, in education and feed this into this project that you've told us about today?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, for sure. I completely agree with you in terms of families, and of course, when we speak about families, we are speaking about all society. They really renew the idea that they forgot a long time ago about the importance of the teachers and the importance of the schools. Not just because they are completely tired of having their own kids inside at home, but because they saw in many situations of having teachers going to family houses to give some resources and helping families with their own kids. But in terms of the agency of teachers, I think that many of them, and I speak by myself because I'm a teacher, I'm not teaching since a few years ago, but I have teachers in my family and all around me, my friends and the people who are working in the general directorate. For now, we are mainly of us, we are teachers. So we discuss a lot these issues. And for sure that I can give you the example of using the check-in tool. The 100,000 teachers and 99% use this check-in tool to see their own proficiency level in terms of digital skills. So in one end, teachers discover that they can't stay away of digital tools. They need it more than ever. In a certain way. So, and they began to see, and we are seeing that in these courses that they are doing, because almost 70,000 teachers already did this training courses. They are using more and more those digital tools and seeing that they can get more power in terms of what they can work with the students. So this redesigning of schools, this redesigning of classrooms is what we would like to achieve in a next step. Because if the teachers understand the power of digital tools, they will discover that having the students seated as usually they are, it's not going to work anymore. Because having those powerful tools in their own hands, teachers will see that students can design their own paths of learning, despite the things that teachers ask them to do. And I think that this will transform education in a certain way, like COVID and pandemic and this hybrid learning and teaching transform in a certain way education. I think that having these all students and all teachers with those powerful tools and using them in terms of getting new ways to and having new paths to learn things. And if schools will do well their own work, they for sure will have more curiosity in their own students, so they will like to try different things. So they have all the possibilities of learning more and more and more. That's why we are spending 80 million euros producing digital resources. Why? Many people ask us why. If you have publishers in your own country, why are you spending money with the digital resources? Because there's a position that if we have powerful digital resources, students would like to use them, and we are designing them for students, not for teachers. And usually publishers produce resources for teachers, for them to use them with students. And now we are designing those contracts, saying that the resources should be designed for students, and the students should use them as they want. Can be games, can be other things, and we will not ask for digital resources for specific subjects. They will be ordered by themes. So a theme could be about democracy in Europe. And then the author should put content, but will be not content just of history. It will be much more than history inside that digital resources. So this is the strategy that we have to give opportunities of our students to use these digital tools, but having good content and good path for autonomy of learning. So, well, let's see, because I think that for researchers, we have an open field to do research in the moment in Portugal, because it's something that we never had before. We are giving autonomy to schools to manage curriculum. We are putting powerful tools in the hands of teachers and students. So I think that researchers should come and see what it's changing. And if it's not changing, why? Because if with all this investment, if the things will not change, so well, let's give up, because it's impossible. So I think that, but I'm very positive in terms of the reaction of our teachers. Of course, we have a problem of lack of teachers in Portugal, like in other countries. We have to convince the youngest that being a teacher is a good profession, and I think it is. I'm happy with my profession. So I think that's the next step that we should bring to our discussion and to our decisions, is to give more quality of life to our teachers, and to convince the youngest, the best students that we have in our universities to become teachers, because we don't have that for now.
Thank you so much for that answer. Now, if this were the only thing on the conference, it would already have been a fulfilling conference for me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't want to wear you out too much. You've had so many good questions from our colleagues, but I think there are more coming. So don't relax yet.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed hearing what you had to say that is occurring, okay, slowly, within the Portuguese context. And your answer that you just had about the development of these technologies and materials for students with the student in mind to me is very powerful. My question is, how are you involving the students in the development of the learning resources for them? And another question, which would be tangential, I believe maybe 10 years ago, Portugal did a fabulous project. I can't remember the name of it, where the youth of Portugal worked with the government to create, I'll try to look up the name of it, to create policy for change.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I can't remember the name of the project.
It's the voice of students.
Yes.
OECD copies.
Yeah, okay.
And it's doing all around, and they are not paying us, but they should.
So would you be doing that? I guess my question is, how have you thought about doing that with students for the contracts that you are signing with companies. So it's not the companies creating it, but it's collaborative with the students.
So the thing, it's a very complex process, let me tell you, because we have all these rules of for contracts that it's completely put us crazy. Because when we speak about this amount of money, we had to do international contests. So it's very difficult. So as we are doing in other aspects of education, we began always for pilot. We're doing some pilots and then we see the results and then we scale up the pilots. So we did a small pilot with this kind of digital resources that we finished 2 or 3 months ago, and we are now doing a campaign for students to use these digital resources. So when we prepare the contest, the things that we put as mandatory is that they pilot the design of the resources in at least 2 schools. So we ask for a resource in terms of a theme, as I told you, put an example of having war in Europe or living in a sustainable planet or something like that. So never a resource in maths or a resource in history. It's always about themes connected with society. And we put in the contract that it's mandatory for the company, could be a company, but could be a university. They can go inside this contest. So this pilot is the possibility for students to say if they see as a team as an important issue, and if they prefer to have it as a game or with a virtual laboratory inside, or well, whatever. So it's mandatory in the contest that they design the resource and then go to at least 2 schools and listen to students and discuss the design with students. So, and then after be sure that this makes sense for students, so they began to program the digital resource.
Not a question. I want to give her a gift because this is Premier Education Technology magazine is no longer exists because publishers died. So with me, Dr. Bob Gurley was associated at Harvard and good buddy. So and Anna, she's a faculty member from UC, and I was the director of education here, and also my buddy. Toledo to come, and because this is going to be a symbol from the US, from the world to you, and it has something about my model also, but a special issue. So if you could come and you and my Australian friend will do a production, will take a picture, and Gina will also come. Anna will come. This is for my memory. And on my memory, we use the best medium in the world, which is Facebook.
This was advertisement.
So where's Anna? You come to this place. So we'll give and with what? You might be looking for my and all of you might want to keep it to some of you, but thank you so much. I appreciate what you're saying. Last time in the world, but you brought it up. The word, and very difficult to understand. We are still learning. Best wishes for
Thank you for your interest. Thank you.
So I would like to invite you all to an welcome cocktail. Follow me.